When it rains, it pours. Former West Virginia defensive coordinator Jordan Lesley was arrested late last night. Let's talk about that.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul, your host. This is another edition of Locked On West Virginia. FanDuel, guys, sponsors this video. You can get started with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. That's if you win, but you got to, and you'll save $5 on that first $5 bet. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. And thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen today, and for being part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your team every single day. I'm going to jump right into this. Former West Virginia defensive coordinator, now fired, Jordan Lesley, has been charged with domestic battery. Now, I want to get into that, but let me read this article by Skylar Callahan really quick. I think he may have been first on this. I haven't been able to find anybody else that was first. It seems like there was a couple that may have been 7 or 8 minutes apart. It's hard to tell who was first, but I'm going to give credit to Voice of Morgantown, SI.com, and anybody else. Hoppy Kirchhoff I saw was on there. There's a lot of people, but that's not the really important issue here. I feel like there is a lot more important things to talk about here. And by the way, guys, I'm not going to be coming at this from a judgmental point of view at all. So if you're looking for me to pour on or anything like that, I'm going to call it right down the middle here and just kind of give my impressions of what all this could mean. So just stick around for this, though, because it could be really bad. It could be really good. Ex-WVU defensive coordinator Jordan Lesley has been arrested a week after his dismissal as West Virginia's DC and has been arrested. West Virginia defensive coordinator Jordan Lesley was arrested and booked early Sunday morning for domestic battery, according to West Virginia Division of Corrections and Rehabilitation. No further details provided at this time. He was dismissed as the WVU defensive coordinator late last Tuesday, which was a little odd timing due to the Arizona game being a full 2 days and some change prior to that. Leslie's unit ranked 113 nationally out of 133 FBS schools in passing yards allowed per game at 261, 84th in total defense. So defending the pass has been a real struggle for the Mountaineers all season, despite trying multiple things in the secondary, scheme, and personnel-wise. The announcement of Leslie's dismissal, head coach Neil Brown announced that special teams coordinator, linebackers coach Jeff Coons would fill in as defensive coordinator for the rest of the season. And West Virginia plays at noon today against Cincinnati, which is just another whole part to this. So the first thing we have to realize when somebody is arrested is that they're innocent until proven guilty, right? As somebody who has been through the legal system extensively, you guys know I am very, very honest about my past on here, and that I am 5 years into my recovery journey. Before that, I had so many instances to where I was in this situation, and one specific instance where I was completely innocent, and I went away for a long time for it, and because I didn't have the know-how, I was scared. They will scare you into a plea. Now, Jordan Lesley has the ability to fight for himself. He's going to have money. He's going to have lawyers, things I didn't have going for me when I was 23 years old and on a false charge. So I know what the legal system can do, both bad and good for somebody, because it's whipped me into shape in the past. It's also absolutely killed me. So this isn't about me, but I do like to relate my specific to it, right? So if this is true, so domestic battery, just to get a definition for it, it is, from what I understand, any person who unlawfully or intentionally makes physical contact of an insulting or provoking nature with his or her family or household member, guys. So it usually causes physical harm. So especially the battery, that's a lot of times means physical harm. So, and it's a misdemeanor. And it can really, most guys get like somewhere like it can be jailed up to 12 months, a $500 fine, or he can just be out on like probation. Like there's definitely a gamut of things that can happen with it. And a guy like Jordan Lesley who has some money, and it matters. Don't let people tell you that it doesn't. So um I lost track my thought because of the comments here. But yeah, so it's just one of those things where the gamut of consequences for this are vast, and a lot of times a guy like Jordan Lesley with some money and some ability to defend himself if he needs to can get out of this with pretty much a slap on the wrist. Also, I want to point out, if it's not true, this is probably going to stick with him, unfortunately. I've seen it happen. The next place that he has to go work or maybe try to work, a lot of times this kind of thing will stick with you for the rest of your life. People will remember you for the charges that didn't stick. And that can be really, really crappy, especially if you're innocent or somebody's embellishing. Because look, guys, I'm just going to say this, and it does happen, and it also doesn't happen. But women or men can embellish things to the point to where cops are called or needed to be called. Alcohol gets involved. People's inhibitions go away. Things, the intensity of situations can get ratcheted up, and people lie. They do. People lie. Now, in this situation, I'm not making a judgment one way or the other. We just need to explain all the different possible outcomes, because it's fair for the guy who is in jail right now, or probably bonded out at this point. Most likely he has a bond, and probably in a hotel somewhere, contemplating the heck out of his life. Can you imagine? Now, if he's guilty, he deserves it. But I just want to point out that it might not be as true as the first charge possibly says, right? So, and we don't know if it's his wife. We don't know if it's a child or anything like that. But, it's like something like a high 90% chance this is probably a wife and husband situation. And the fact that she's not in jail lets you know that there weren't mutual combatants. At least I haven't seen that she's in jail. Now she could be, and I need to see. So, we'll see. And since it's domestic battery, like somebody's pointing out, it's not with a male, but it can be a household member according to the West Virginia Code 61-2-28. So it can be with another person in the family. So if it's another male of the household, then it can still be a male. But anyway, that's getting way too deep into the weeds. That's really not what we're here to talk about. This is an illegal channel. We're not trying to get that deep into it. I just wanted to discuss the potential for both, right? If he's guilty, if he's not guilty. If he's guilty, he'll probably never work in the industry again, and he deserves not to work in the industry again. If he's not guilty, then it's probably still going to hurt him beyond this. It's just the way things go. Hopefully he gets another chance if he's not guilty. I always feel like Jordan Lesley came across extremely genuine in a lot of his press conferences. And I always felt like he came across as a nice guy. But as we know, and I don't know that he drinks or anything like that, but, alcohol can change things. There's a lot of things that can change things about somebody. So, I think at the end of the day, guys, this is something that is alleged. This is something that it could, just as much as it could be true, it could not be true. A lot of times when an arresting officer comes to a scene, there's just a direct, usually the guy gets arrested. That's it from my personal experience. Sometimes warranted, sometimes not. But in this situation, we don't know all the details. I did talk to Mongolia County Sheriff's Office. They wouldn't even tell me what domestic battery was, by the way. Like whenever I spoke with him, I said, okay, since you can't tell me details on the case, just tell me what domestic battery is. And he couldn't even do that. He wouldn't do that. He pretended like he didn't know what it was, which I guess there's a chance he could just be a correctional officer, but they are usually around it so often and so much. They know the difference and they can look. They just don't want a firestorm, and I understand that. And if I said the name wrong, forgive me. I'm not from down that way. I'm from the other part of West Virginia towards Mingo County, Logan County, that kind of thing. So, unfortunately, but so and Jordan Lesley's wife, if it is with her, hopefully she's okay, and hopefully, I don't want to make judgments, and I don't want to say it is her. I don't want to make, I don't want any misinformation to get out there. I'm just saying if it is her and if this happened, I hope she's okay. I know she had gotten into it with our fan base quite a bit on X. She had definitely defended her husband like crazy on X, and I want to point that out. So, but this is a rough time in the guy's life, man. It really is. So it says he was arrested in was it Monongalia, or how is it pronounced? I keep saying Mongolia, don't I? And it's not right. And I'm sorry if I do that. But it starts with an M, guys, and an ALIA. Is it Mongolia? Monongalia. Monongalia. I'm sorry if I say it wrong, but MON. Oh shoot, it went away. Monongalia. Is that right? I think so. Anyways, Mon. Okay. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Up next on Locked On West Virginia, guys. Will this hurt or help Neil Brown? And what is this saying about his judge of character? I think that's a fair question. This is Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia, guys, has been brought to you by 5 Hour Energy, guys. That's right. 5 Hour Energy. No, this is LinkedIn. Sorry. When you're LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't use other leading job sites. So if you're looking on LinkedIn, if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have time or resources to hire. So they're always finding ways to make the process easier, even just launching a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even quicker. Be part of the 2.5 million small businesses using LinkedIn for hiring, and post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. All right, guys. So we heard Neil Brown say last week, and I just want to say that I don't think this. So before anybody comes after me here, Monongalia. Okay, thank you very much. So Jordan Lesley was just called a really great man by Neil Brown last week. There are going to be people that are going to come after that if this is found guilty. I promise you. People are going to question his judgment. They're going to question his judge of character. They're going to say West Virginia is a good old boys club. And maybe that's true. But I just want to point out that Neil Brown will probably, though, people will find a way to criticize Neil in this. And I don't think that is personally the case. I think, I just know how people are going to be. So I want to point that out because there have already been people, I've already seen some things up on X, like people saying, hey, look, West Virginia knows how to hire them, like different things like that I've seen on there. And I find it to be kind of ridiculous, but at the end of the day, he just called him a good man not even a week ago. So I think people are going to try to draw those conclusions, no matter how few or far between. The negative just outweighs the positive. So that's just how it is, man. But it could also help Neil Brown, right? Because look, he made this call. He got rid of this guy. Maybe he saw something in Jordan that he needed a break from football. Like there's a lot here that you can dive into with that. Obviously, you're the one that's judging character right now, Bama, because obviously I was. You just heard what I said for the last 2 minutes on the subject. I'm not trying to spin this into Brown's judging character at all. I mean, obviously, I'm talking about both sides of the coin all the way through this. But anyway, so then for those of you listening to podcasts, I do address comments from time to time. I say that a lot, but never know who's listening that maybe didn't listen before. But so I think that it's a fair thing to say that, look, people are going to try to attach Neil Brown to this. If you don't want to admit that, if you don't want to at least concede that, then you're probably just biased, because people will attach Neil Brown to this some way, somehow. They're going to figure out a way to do it, whether if it's right or wrong. So that's just my thoughts on the situation. And the other way this could hurt Neil Brown is, okay, good. I'm glad you retracted it, man. I was like, gosh, you're coming at me. I didn't even talk yet. So this team is trying to play today at 12 o'clock. It's 2 hours away. And we got Cincinnati today. There are players on this team that are really close to Jordan Lesley. Promise you, I know a few. There are a few that weren't happy about the firing. Promise you that too. In some of our best players. Because think about, and this is hypothetical, okay? But TJ Jackson is a great example. This is a guy at Troy that, a lot of people know this staff from that over there. And not a lot of people were willing to take a chance on TJ like West Virginia was. Now, he had his opportunities, but West Virginia has really turned him into a star, right? And he's going to have a legit shot at the NFL. So I think he's very thankful for that. And Jordan Lesley was a big component in bringing him over. Well, he got fired. And if you're loyal like I'm loyal to a fault. Even if somebody's hurting me, a lot of times I'm extremely just sometimes overly loyal. So I think, with Jordan Lesley, some of these kids are going to still hold loyalties to him. And this situation could be clouding. It could hurt judgment. It could also galvanize. Like there's obviously, like I said, this whole show is about both sides of the coin, because I feel like nothing is all one direction. There's no absolutes in life for the most part. I'll keep my personal thoughts on that one out. I almost mentioned something else that would have got me in trouble. So I think, there are going to be kids today that can struggle with this. And I feel bad about it, because I feel like this team has a lot in front of them. And I just hope that doesn't end up being the case. You got to hope that they're able to put this news behind them, and anybody that has a connection to Jordan, hopefully he's out of jail. If he's bonded out or something, maybe they can has spoken to him today and just checked in on him, because these are 18 to 22-year-old kids. And just like if your mom or dad or brother makes a bad choice, you're not out on them. Similarly, I think a lot of these kids are always going to have an affinity or some affection towards Jordan, whether or not he's guilty of this or not. And that's just being real. That's understanding human nature and how people are. Because, look, if people were out on me based on my decisions, I would have been done at 23 years old. So I think that's a fair decision. That's a fair thing to talk about. So unfortunately, somebody in the comments said Jordan got arrested and trying to distract the team. So if we lose today, in order to cause Neil Brown to get fired, it's Jordan's revenge. That's so crazy. That's silly. But it's crazy, man. Somebody else pointed out to have a hard time seeing him having anger issues. He is a very calm-natured guy, but coming from experience, I can say, I can see personally, I can see an intensity burning in him. He's an intense guy, in my opinion. That doesn't mean he can be physically violent towards women or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, look, Jordan Leslie's 6'3", 240 pounds. He's a large, strong dude. He's not a guy you'd want to meet in the back alley. He's not a guy you would want to challenge at the bar. He's going to whoop you, most likely. So, Jordan Lesley, this is another reason why, if he's guilty of this, this is really bad. And I've tried not to spend too much time being judgmental because I have been given all the grace, guys. You realize how hard this is for me to have these kind of opinions, but at the end of the day, if he's guilty of this, he probably should never coach again, or at least for a while, because people get second chances, and I don't know the ins and outs, but if he hurt his wife, this is something he's going to have to pay for, and unfortunately, that's just the way the world works. And in a community that's dominated by men, men a lot of times have very, very strong thoughts on whether women should or should not be touched, right? So I think, when you're asking those kind of people to hire you down the road, something like this is, man, it can be rough. So I don't know, man. It's going to suck. But hopefully the details, whatever's supposed to happen, happens in this case, whether he's supposed to be guilty or innocent. I just want the truth to come out so that we know about it, and anybody that's been hurt or injured can heal. Because at the end of the day, there is a victim in this case, allegedly, and we want to make sure that that person gets the help that they need if indeed they were being victimized. Because, like I just said, if it comes out that a 6'3", 240-pound guy hit his wife, it's not going to look great, and it could potentially be very damning for him, and deservedly so. So let's just hope that a 6'3", 240-pound Jordan Lesley didn't do this. Pray to God he didn't do this. So, but at the end of the day, that's why we got a legal system, and unfortunately, I know this from experience too, a lot of times people plea out to things they didn't do to avoid. Sometimes you just can't avoid the charge. Like, people could say anything, and then you have to prove that you didn't do it. And a lot of times you don't have evidence that you did or didn't. So, not saying that's the case here, but just trying to think of all aspects of this. Up next on Locked On West Virginia, guys, we're going to talk a little bit more about this case, about the game today. Stick around. We'll talk about that. Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by Robinhood Confidential, guys. Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Pretty dang good. Robinhood Gold provides privileges for high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for $5 a month, guys. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold, so sign up at robinhoodgold.com. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, go to robinhoodgold.com/gold. Investing does involve risks. Rates can change, and gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. And this episode is also brought to you by FanDuel, guys. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 to get 150 in bonus bets, but that's if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. All you have to do is visit FanDuel today to get started and get 150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, which is an official partner, sportsbook partner of the National Football League. All right, guys. So, um, yeah, I mean, yes, there are people are saying in the comments, yes, they're at Ray Rice, Mixon. There's been like people that have hit women on camera and still been okay. I think athletes looking for jobs are different than coaches looking for jobs. They are two different situations and two different kind of criteria for hiring. Morals are not the first thing you think of or look to when you look at an athlete in a lot of cases. Look at like Bob Pruitt at Marshall is a good example of that. Or if you look at Bobby Bowden at Florida State, like he wasn't afraid to hire or bring in kids with issues, which sometimes worked out. And they get second chances. Nothing's all black and white, but sir, Jordan Lesley can get a shot again, whether innocent or guilty in this situation. Like I said at the end of the break, I just hope that a 6'3", 240-pound Jordan Lesley isn't guilty of this, because it's something that it can make you sick to think about. So we'll see what happens there, guys. One other thing I meant to mention and point out on the legal aspect of this is a third party can also make this call. So let's say you're in a hotel room with your wife, you guys get into it, or somebody hears some kind of loud noise, they can call and say, hey, this guy's strangling this woman over here, or it sounds like they're into it. And then the cops show up, knock on the door. Got sleep in my eye. The cops show up, knock on the door, and then there's markings, or maybe people are drunk and they start investigating. They see maybe there's marks on somebody, and you can't answer questions. A lot of times they'll arrest now and ask questions later. I've seen it happen. So there are a multitude of ways that this could have gone. Maybe his wife didn't call. Maybe he didn't call. Maybe a third party did. Maybe somebody within the household. There's a lot of different ways it could go. Just I want you to keep your mind open to any possibilities. And absolutely, if there is guilt here, if this is, like I said, if he's found guilty, then he deserves what he gets. But I just don't want to rush to that judgment, because I've been in his shoes. Not with women necessarily, but with other things. So I know I've said that a few times, but people in the comments are typing no excuses, and I do agree as long as he's guilty, unfortunately. So as for the game tonight, guys, I think this afternoon, it's going to be an interesting game. West Virginia is 17-3 all time versus Cincinnati, and I think that's an underlying current to this game. Here's why: because we've dominated the series, right? Cincinnati, at no point in their history, except maybe 1 or 2 years, have they ever really been on our level, right? I think the Zach Collaros teams, the Tony Pike teams, were all pretty dang good. But, man, when you look at this Cincinnati team, generally speaking, guys, most West Virginia teams should win this game, right? I mean, look, we should win this game. Yes, they have a little bit better of a record. They haven't played anywhere near the schedule we have. Are they better at quarterback? Maybe right now. I'll see what Nico turns into. Are they better at running back? No, it's pretty even. Are they better at offensive line? No. Are they better at defensive line? Maybe one player. They have one, though they do have one player that's better than all our defensive linemen. But Zach Frazier handled him last year, but we ain't got no Zach Frazier this year. Where they're really good is in the secondary. And what breaks my heart is to see Josh Minkins back there just absolutely picking everything off, because he was this close to coming to West Virginia, guys. He literally flipped at the last minute to Cincinnati. Pretty sure it's the same guy, right? Am I thinking about the same guy? Let me make sure before I go on record with that. Yeah, this is him. Former Louisville and recent West Virginia commit Josh Meekins is committed to Cincinnati. Flips to Cincinnati. So I just wanted to make sure. But yeah, so I remember this well because I loved his tape. And he flipped to Cincinnati, and man, he's balled out for them. So, he's great in their secondary. I think the quarterback's really good. I think, Indiana really missed. But, I mean, look, Indiana, it's worked out for them, but he's a good player, right? I think, you have to uh, give him his flowers, and Sorsby's really played well this year at times. It has a lot of yards. Meekins is great, and then obviously Kiner is great in the backfield. I've heard their offensive line can be good at times too, but yeah. So hopefully the situation of today, Jordan Lesley and that whole thing, doesn't cloud the judgment or hurt this team. I'm sure Neil's going to have something to say, some kind of motivation for the team. Let's hope, but we'll find out, and it'll be a conversation after the game. I think we'll be able to tell if the defense is down, right? So, but there's going to see we've got people in the comments now trying to attach this to Neil Brown, and I've already kind of said my piece on that, guys. But thank you for joining Locked On West Virginia. This episode, guys, has been a kind of a somber one because nobody wants to see anybody get arrested. I don't want to see that happen. I don't like it that there's a victim in this case. Most likely, it's probably a woman, but not necessarily. And hopefully everybody's okay. Can't say that enough. If there's a victim in this case, hopefully she's good. But other than that, y'all, I'm gonna go prepare for the game this afternoon. My nose is sopped up, as you can tell. A lot of times when I first wake up, that's what happens. But we'll be back after the game with an instant react to what I saw today. So if you want to see that, guys, I'll be back right after the game at probably 3:30 or 4. So see you then, guys. Until then, I'm out.